Why can't the microcontroller drive the MEMS tube directly? First of all, the I/O port of the microcontroller has a certain load capacity, but the current is very small, and the driving capacity is limited, generally within 10 to 20 milliamps. In practical applications, the processor generally pays attention to low power consumption, and the power supply voltage will be relatively long. Therefore, the general microcontroller is powered at 3.3 volts, and its I/O port has a maximum voltage of 3.3 volts. Let's simply compare the difference between the transistor and the MEMS tube drive. Transistor. The transistor is a current control type. As long as the base drive voltage is higher than the dead zone voltage of VBE, it can generally be turned on at 0.7 volts. For the transistor, 3.3 volts is definitely greater than VBE. The base current can be calculated based on the I/O port voltage and the current limiting resistor. Therefore, a suitable resistor is directly connected in series with the base to make the transistor work in the saturation zone. MOSFET. It is a voltage control type. The driving voltage must be higher than the threshold voltage VGs to conduct normally. That is, it must be higher than the minimum value of the dead zone voltage arcs to conduct. The threshold voltage of different MOSFETs is different, generally around 3 to 5 volts. The saturation driving voltage is 6 to 8 volts, which is greater than the I/O port voltage of 3.3 volts. If it is driven by 3.3 volts, the MOSFET may not be turned on at all, or it may be in a semiconducting state. In the semiconducting state, the internal resistance of the tube will be very large. If the drive is small, the current load can be used, but the large current load is not allowed. The internal resistance is too large. The power consumption will also be very large, and the MOSFET will easily burn out. Therefore, the I/O port is generally selected to directly control the transistor, and then to control the MEMS tube. Why is a transistor to drive the MEMS tube? This is because the load capacity of the transistor is not as strong as that of the MEMS tube. When the load current is required, a MEMS tube is needed to drive it. Therefore, it is generally not recommended to drive the MEMS tube directly. But it does not rule out that some very low-power MEMS tubes can be operated. If you have any questions about MOSFET product technical solutions, you can leave a message in the comment area. I will give you the answer here. Semi MOSFET manufacturer focusing on MOSFET R&D and manufacturing for 20 years.